Amatakwape, Ambatuwaste. Hello, my relatives. Today is a good day. Well, in chapter 2 of Matriarchy, as you may recall last week, I talked about a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift for the world, for all of us. You made it, you made one over 6,000 years ago when you switched from matriarchy, a peace-loving, natural way of life that was in tune with the rhythms of our grandmother the earth and all of her children, to one that is patriarchal. That paradigm shift has overpopulated the world, has dirtied it up. It's filthy now because of patriarchy and its civilization. So let's go back to matriarchy. And what is matriarchy? Well, all you have to do is go back to the weekend update last week and you'll find out an introduction to it. But more importantly, let's look at what my mother taught me. She told me that, if you take all the wingeds, everything that flies, if you take them away from the earth, everything would die. Or if you just take all the green things, everything that grows, if you take those away from the earth, everything would die. If you take just the four-leggeds away, everything would die. If you take all of our insect relatives and the relatives who live within the earth and swim in her waters, everything would die. But if you take the human being away, everything would flourish. Wow. So you see how insignificant we really are. We're not the top of the food chain with our thumbs and our reason. We're in fact cursed with the power of reason, because we're allowed to choose what path, and we forget the instructions of the great mystery. But insofar as making that paradigm shift, we have to understand what is matriarchy. Because believe me, my wife Pearl, and I have been to conferences where with a lot of women present, trying to explain it. We've been with Phyllis Young also, another facilitator of the Republic of Lakota. And she, in her infinite elderly wisdom, has also tried to impart on the patriarchal system what matriarchy is all about. And most of the women, if not all of them, they admit they don't have a clue. They are so brainwashed by patriarchs, so fearful. Matriarchy, a balanced world, living in balance. Which means, of course, if patriarchy is just at the top of the pyramid, the patriarch there, and everyone underneath the patriarch, whether religious or business or political, whatever the endeavor, it's always the patriarch at the top. Well, that means they're unbalanced. And if you're unbalanced, I was taught that means you're nuts. You're insane. Insane. That's patriarchy. And you've heard me say this before. Look at the patriarch. Please take a good look. Because he hasn't graduated from the cave. He has a caveman mentality. The only way he can solve misunderstandings is with a club, albeit a very sophisticated one now, using drones and what have you, and infrared, the whole 9 yards of technological civilization, where you have to slave 8 hours. My point is, for the rich people, my point is, of course, very obvious. Matriarch is the only answer. If we don't have matriarchy, we're lost. Because our grandmother the earth, now Western science back in the 70s, sank a hole into the earth up in Greenland. And for over 2 years they monitored the data that they brought up from the insides of the earth, and they came to the conclusion that the earth is a living being and not simply an orb hanging around the sun. So if indeed you follow our teachings that she is the grandmother, or in other venues it's the Mother Earth, if she is indeed the mother of all living beings, and you only have to look at spring and see what happens, and the cycles of growth and aging and dying and rebirth, to understand that she is a mother and grandmother, well, she doesn't need us anymore. Remember what I said about who's really at the top of the food chain. Paradigm shift, folks. We need a paradigm shift. So I'm going to continue talking about matriarchy because it has to be talked about. I'm not going to talk about how you separate things for in the garbage cans so they can be recycled. I'm not going to talk about getting carbon credits. I'm not going to talk about cleaning up the depths of the ocean, because that's impossible. It's already too late. Or cleaning up the air and all of that other stuff that environmentalists got you talked into. That's patriarchy, man. Patriarchs want to be rich, and enough isn't enough. So, I'll be seeing you soon with more on matriarchy. Doksha Ake. I hope to see you again.